should you raise prices? And I'm going to hopefully answer that question for you today. The reality is it's never going to work. The biggest determination of price is literally who you're selling to. It's not unrealistic at all for anyone, I wouldn't say, if they do all the right things for a long time. It's not about the cost of the services. This is where people get things very confused and very wrong. I think if you knew that was the goal realistically to get to where you want to get to, you'd be like, I'll figure out a way to do that. Alright guys, if you've clicked on this video, you're probably wondering, should you raise prices? And I'm going to hopefully answer that question for you today. And more importantly, you as the business owner are going to be able to decide very confidently whether you should or shouldn't. And if you should raise prices, how to actually do it. So my experience in doing this over the last 10 years, I've built a fitness coaching company online completely, PB Academy, scaled it to a team of coaches, delegated everything, and built a sales system as well. So we grew to over 250 active members. And as well as that, we also built a physical gym location, completely different business, different clientele, and we grew that to over 500 active members. So the reason I'm saying that is just so that you understand where I'm coming from, my experience in this. And also, I've spent tens of thousands of pounds, spent a lot of money, some of it wasted, some of it not, on mentorships, masterminds, events, learning from the best of the best, a lot of the famous people that you probably know of, and flying out to Vegas, acquisition.com, Alex Hormozi, and actually being there for the day as well. So that's my experience, and that's why I'm able to talk about what I've talked about. I've practiced everything I'm going to talk about, and seen good results from it, and there's a lot of mistakes that you can learn from along the way. So that's a little introduction. Now we're going to get straight to the video and talk through all the points so you understand what to consider when it comes to raising prices. So first thing we're going to talk about is the actual market. Now, so many business gurus will give you false hope or false advice, and the wave of high ticket coaching, high ticket this, high ticket that. Just to be clear, this applies to any service business, whether it's online, in person, and they push you towards just raising prices without getting any context around your business, who you serve, what your goal is long term, and that's what we're going to cover today. So this applies to you. Now, with the high ticket thing and just raising prices, just double your prices. Yes, it sounds great, right? But if that person that you're serving, that you're selling to, does not have the money, and it genuinely doesn't make sense for them to engage in your services at that now doubled price or tripled price, then it's just never going to work. The reality is it's never going to work. So how can I give this extreme scenario? I'll always bring about the fitness coaching because that's my experience. Now, when we're dealing with someone that has got a net worth of a couple of million quid, right, in the UK, a couple of £1 million in the bank, when I'm asking, if I ask them for 10k, right, for a 3-month program, it's a very small percentage of their net worth. It's actually a very minor decision compared to if I was to ask someone, and this has happened, that is literally spending maybe £300 a month on a mortgage for their house or rent for their house, and my coaching costs £200 per month. Just an example, but this happened in the past. And they were literally comparing it to their mortgage, because they literally had less than probably £1,000 in the bank account, and they're living month to month. So it's a huge decision for that person. So two completely different price points, but very different decisions, and the outcome is completely different. So it depends who you serve. So what I'm just explaining here is your target audience is extremely important. So who you're designing your services for, who your clientele is, that will determine ultimately how large your prices can actually be. You've seen the budgets with everything that's going on with AI and the companies dealing with each other, dealing in billions. That wouldn't be possible if they were dealing with small business owners, but they're dealing with these massive organizations. So I'm just trying to explain the point that the biggest determination of price is literally who you're selling to. Does that person have the ability to give you the money or get their hands on the money to pay you? That's literally what it comes down to. Because if they can't, it doesn't matter what your price is, it doesn't matter how good your sales techniques are, it's not going to work. So that's the first thing, okay? So just getting through your target audience and totally understand that. And if you want to identify your target audience, we've got the best target audience identifying sheet for free. If you click the link below, and it'll help you identify all the pain points, your desires, the goals, the results, everything that target audience is feeling, so you can identify it, and it makes everything easy for your content, sales, ads, everything. So worth getting that and doing that for a little task. Second is the revenue target. And what I mean by this is the revenue target you've actually got for yourself. If you're a solopreneur and you're running this online service business, a fitness coach maybe, to just do it for yourself and you're not trying to build or scale a massive team, you need to think about what is the ideal amount of money I want to earn. and be realistic, right? Just set it as like a 12-month goal. So just put it like that. So don't just say, oh, I want to earn £1 million a month or 100k a month. Think about where you are today and be realistic, not totally unrealistic, not totally realistic where it's like pulling you back. So if you're earning 2k a month now, don't say like, oh, I want to be earning 3k a month. Just be a little bit ambitious as well. Be more ambitious than you probably think. But just work that out, because that's the first thing you need to think about, because then that allows you to go to the next question and think about the mathematics involved of like what your business model needs to be, how many leads you've actually got, and be realistic then with what you can work out. So for example, let's just make this easy. Let's say the goal is 10k a month, and the reason I'm saying that is because it's an easy number to work with from a mathematical standpoint, and it's probably the most common business owner, business guru number that everyone seems to be wanting to aim for. And it is actually very achievable. Most people don't achieve it, obviously. Otherwise, everyone would be insanely successful. But it is very achievable when people do the basics consistent enough for a longer enough period of time. So if you start from scratch, this is going to take years to get to. But it's not unrealistic at all for anyone, I wouldn't say, if they do all the right things for a long time. So 10k a month is a reasonable target. So let's say that's the revenue target, right? This leads us on to the next question of capacity and business model. This is where you strip everything back. I don't care what you're doing right now. I don't care what clients you serve right now. You need to think forward. You need to think for the future. So this is where you take a step back, and you, as the entrepreneur, the business owner, the solopreneur, you just think about the business model from a mathematical perspective. Now, I've been through this on a longer format video, so I'm going to be very quick today. But let's just go with the two extreme examples again. So let's say you position yourself as, again, a fitness coach, but you're extremely premium. You only work with one client at a time, okay? Let's just imagine this. You work with one client at a time, and you then think about, right, if I'm only serving one client, I still want to work. I want to work hard. I want to deliver the best service. What can I do with that person? I can literally become that person's slave, right? If I'm only working with one person, I can literally cook all the meals for them. I can make sure that I'm there with them most of the time so they don't eat off plan. They've got all their food with them. I train with them every single session. I'm there all the time. And I'm just keeping them accountable. So I'm doing everything I possibly can to make sure that person gets the result they want, right? That's the extreme example. So that's working one-to-one. That's that business model. Now, let's go with the opposite business model then, right? Let's say I want 100 clients at £100 a month, and that equates to 10k. So just to write it down for you very quickly, you can go with anything in between, by the way. So one-to-one, I would have to charge 10k a month. So not unrealistic for the service quality I just described. I'm literally living with that person, doing everything for them, cooking, cleaning, buying the food, not cleaning, maybe get someone else for that, and training with them, pushing them through everything, and just making sure they do everything they need to get all the settlements ready. They don't have to worry about a thing. Now, who would that serve? That would serve a really, really wealthy person's probably wife. So you might want to go and target that. So if you can find really wealthy CEOs, business owners that has got a wife that wants to get in shape, and to them 10k a month is absolutely nothing, especially if the result you're selling is everything is done for you. I literally just hold that person's hand and make sure they get the result. Like, they are going to get in shape regardless, because everything is controlled for them. Now, that's worth 10k a month to that person, probably worth more, depending on the person you're dealing with. The opposite scenario, more realistic, right? But I tell you why this could be unrealistic. So 100 clients to you, and you charge £100 a month. So that equates to 10k as well. So you can now go anything in between that number. So I'm going to try to do these maths quicks in my head. Let's just say you halve it, but you have to double the price. So you do 50 clients, and you do it at £200 a month. Very realistic. I would say that's probably the most realistic for most people, because that's a very competitive price point in the fitness industry. £200 per month, providing you do a good service. And getting 50 clients is not unachievable. It's really, really realistic to think about, right? When you work out your LTV, so how many months an average client lasts with you, let's say 6 months. So every 6 months, you have to make sure you take on board 50 clients. So that's 100 clients a year. Really not hard to do, right? When you break it down per month, now you're looking at, my maths is going to go off here, it's like 8 clients a month. So that's 2 clients a week. Do you think you can do 2 clients a week? Do you think you can find 2 new clients a week? I think if you knew that was the goal realistically to get to where you want to get to, you'd be like, I'll figure out a way to do that, whether it is doing, specific outreach, making sure I'm posting every single day, and and running lots of promotions, campaigns, stuff like that. So not hard to do when you think of it like that. And that's just 10K a month. So you can push beyond that. So that's why you've got to think about the revenue target. So we've done that. We know the goal, and then we've worked out the business model. So I'm going to run with, actually, let's do 50 and do it 200. So value of the result. So I've kind of touched on this already. The value of the result of what I talked about for the wealthy business owner with a wife that wants to get in shape, charging 10K a month for that result is worth it. The value is worth it for that person, right? This kind of ties into the target audience as well. Now, when we're touching the £200 a month mark, that's where it gets a little bit sticky, because when you're serving the mass population, especially if you're in a local area, so let's say you haven't got 50,000 followers, 100,000 followers on Instagram, you haven't cracked it with your target audience. So what I'm saying is you haven't got 50,000 people of your dream clients following you, which is what we all want. We all desire that, right? But the truth is, we built our business without having that. We had quite a mixed bag. Even though we had a specific target audience we were going after, like we had a dream client we wanted, our client base didn't make up that. I'd say maybe 60-70% of our client base was the target audience, but we still filled in a lot with like 40% coming from just a mixed bag of like women, men, older, different goals, different perspectives, different starting points. Anyway, now the value of the result to that person, it has to be worth the price they're paying. It's not about the cost of the services. This is where people get things very confused and very wrong. So let's say, let's just pick a weird scenario. Let's say this laptop I've got here in front of me, I've got a MacBook, right? Let's say the cost to build this thing was 10 grand. Let's just say the cost was 10 grand. Let's say Apple, for some reason, could not get the cost down to build these things less than 10 grand. It does not matter how good the Mac is. It may well be worth that much, or it literally costs that much to build. If the majority of people can't justify spending that money on that thing to have it in their home, then they will not buy it, because the value of the result of them getting that product is not worth it. So it's not about the cost, and it's not about your service specifics. So this is where I find it really interesting. I see people online all the time talk about how good their service is, how good their certifications are, their experiences. It doesn't matter. If the result you're providing from your services is not worth the value that you charge, then it's never going to work. So you have to make sure that the target audience you've got, the dream client you want to go after, the result you're actually providing with the service is worth it to them. And that's when they exchange hands. That's when your sales go through the roof, when you've nailed that concept, okay? The flip side to that is, and the profitable thing for business owners is, sometimes the cost to deliver something that is worth a hell of a lot is actually the flip scenario to what I just gave. So for example, it can be insanely profitable to run a coaching business, because if you sell a result £200 per month, it takes 3 months to get the results, and you sell that for £600 packages, right? To guarantee people get in shape, so let's say you have money back guarantee, very low risk, they get a six-pack, they get in the best shape of their life, they learn a lot along the way, and they enjoy the process, that is worth £600 as a bare minimum to most people. So they will happily exchange hands. But you, to deliver that service, probably doesn't cost you nowhere near that in time. When you work out how much time it actually costs you to deliver that coaching process to one person, you probably work out that it really doesn't cost you much at all. So what I'm saying is, it can be insanely profitable when you get this right as well. So just to tick that box and not spend too much time on it, you need to make sure the value of the service is actually worth what they pay. It's not to do with the cost of the service, which is what business owners sometimes get hung up upon. Now, competitors, this is something to think about. I've already touched on it there, that £200 a month in the fitness industry is a very competitive rate. You do need to understand your competitors, and sometimes people say, oh, well, I'm so unique that I don't have competitors. You always have competition, and if you have that mindset, you're going to really struggle. So go out there, do your research. You can use ChatGPT really easily these days to just literally do research for you on competitive services similar to what you've described as your service, and you will find out very quickly what the going rate is in different cities, in different areas, and in your area as well. So I'm not telling you this to say then you need to be competitive. There's two ways you go about this. You either make sure that your service has USPs and unique selling points that positions you as much more premium and a different service altogether, because you deliver a much higher outcome, much higher perceived likelihood of success, and they're just willing to just pay more for you and not compare it. Another thing you can do that's important with price is completely differentiate yourself with the way that you price yourself. So let me give you an example of this, right? Go back 10, 15 years when I first got into the fitness industry. It was very common still, and still is quite, it's not as common now, but it was very common where online coaching was not popular at all. It was unheard of. Every single person I tried to sell online coaching to, I first had to even explain what online coaching was, right? Because it didn't exist. We didn't have all these fancy softwares, and I was doing it through email because that was the only form of communication at that time. So it was all PDFs and everything. So my point is that everything was still based off hourly rate as a PT. How much do you charge per session? I want to get PT. That's what people would come in with as inquiries, right? And at the time, going rate around my area was like £15 per hour, £20 per hour maximum. The other thing people would ask for would be diet plans. Can I have a diet plan? Can I have a training plan? And they would expect to pay something around £20 to £25 for a diet plan and then a training plan. That was the rate, right? So pricing can actually differentiate yourself and get people to flip and think, whoa, this must be different then. That is the psychology behind pricing, where economists tend to struggle with, because economists think that everyone is always thinking logical all the time. But the truth is, we've got this brain on our heads, and we as humans just think completely different. Like, we're based around emotions as well. There's always a I don't know, a mashup. There's always a mashup of, thinking logically and emotionally. So we have to try and factor that in. And, as much as I love economics, it doesn't factor that in with all the graphs that they've got. So anyway, what I did was, once I started packaging into a result, like this is the program you get, yes, a training plan, diet plan. Maybe there was a few sessions involved when I first started doing it as well, in person. Packaged it all together, sold it as something completely different, and people saw it as something new. They didn't compare it to, I just get a diet plan, I just get a training plan, or I just get time spent with you. They don't see it like that. They see it as, I'm investing in a program because I want this result. And all of a sudden, when you charge £600, they don't even compare it to like, that's only £15 an hour sessions, and a £25 pound diet plan as well. Like they don't even think that. They just see it as something, this is completely new, completely different, and it's completely revolutionized over the last 10 years, the coaching industry. Now you got people charging 10k packages to CEOs. I help busy people, but anyway, everyone's busy. Anyway, my point is, you do need to look at the market, you need to look at the competition, and then you need to price yourself accordingly, and that will just help you understand what you need to do differently. Positioning, I kind of just touched on that again. So positioning is making sure the way you package yourself. I kind of just went over all this, so I won't spend too long. Positioning, how you sell your services. You're not selling service specifics, you're selling results, okay? So instead of saying I give you a custom training plan, what you say is I give you an easy to follow plan that gives you everything you need to just execute and make sure you get the results. You make sure you always tie it in your sentence, whenever you describe anything, to the results. You make sure you accelerate fat loss and increase muscle mass with this custom plan. It's not about I give you a training plan, right? That's service specifics, and then you're talking about results based. Always getting them back to results based thinking with the way you describe things. I'm going to draw this out for you because a lot of you may not know the demand and supply curve, and it's been a long time since I was in college doing economics, right? So I've messed this graph up as I was drawing it multiple times, right? It's been about 10 years since I was doing economics, and I haven't had to look at this graph before, but the concept is very clear in my head. So I'm going to try and explain it for you, even though the graph looks really messy. So what we've got here, we've got the supply curve on this graph here, and then on this line, and then we've got the demand curve here, right? And where these points meet, ideally what economists tell us is this is the optimal place to price a product. So you've got price here, to price a product, and that is where they should sell the most and you should make the most revenue, right? That's what economists tell us. But I just told you before that the problem with this is they think everyone's always thinking logically, and we are not always thinking logically. Sometimes we are sparked by status, emotion, like it depends on why you're buying that thing, okay? And this is something the top brands do very well. If you think of Rolex, for example, they squeeze supply, so they bring supply right down here, And this then, with the demand going extremely high, because demand is very high, the price can be shot up through the roof, and it will still sell. Obviously, because they've got such slow supply, but they'll be able to price their product much higher, okay, because of demand. So this is where you can control it as a business owner, as a service business owner, is by controlling supply. And obviously everyone's going to tell you to try and create as much demand as possible. Everyone's telling you that, running more ads, posting more, doing more outreach. All those lead generation techniques are basically trying to create demand for your services, right? So yes, everyone will tell you to do that. What I will tell you to do, as I've talked about above with the business models, is control supply. So if you say you only have one space available, like we said, then the price you can charge is much higher, right? Providing you still have demand there. Now, the flip side to that is you have 200 spaces available for your coaching. Now, what does that tell you? Supply is so much compared to demand that your price of your product is going to be much lower, okay, and worth a lot less. So you need to think about this when it comes down to just pricing in general. And this is ultimately going to determine whether you can make things work. But there is lots of emotion you can use with your marketing to actually influence this graph for your own business. So you can make sure that your service is in higher demand by just being everywhere, making sure your offer is irresistible, making sure you have great lead magnets and lead generation techniques, make sure people have clearly understand your USP and what you stand for and why you are different, so that you are unique and therefore there is going to be more demand for you. So all those things you can do to increase demand, but then you can control supply to make sure you can charge the most price, right? Charge the highest price for your services as well. So that's something to think about, right? So we've done that one now. And then the next one is obvious. We're going to be talking about proof, right? Now, a lot of people, when they start off, they say I should, discount my services. If I'm not getting the amount of clients I want, I should always run discount offers. I always talk about this on Black Friday, and I always make a point of saying that service businesses should never be doing Black Friday sales, because discounting your service just lowers the perceived status of your service. It also shows me that you're not filling up all your spaces. That's the way I see these things, right? And I think a lot of people subconsciously see it the same way. It also pisses off everyone that you've already got as active clients paying full price. So the alternative to this is just run unique offers, and you can use this as lead generation techniques as well, like a giveaway, where you actually give away everything for free, right? And you clearly market it this way, where you say this is just a unique case. For whatever reason, you're testing a new method, testing something new, and you want someone to just be a case study to go through this process with you. And you clearly make the deal that they have to give you a result, a review, and a testimonial at the end, because that's the gold dust that you're doing this for, okay? So then it's automatically justified to anyone else you're already working with that's paying you, but it is going to create more leads, and it's going to not cause a problem with your existing pricing, right? So you can get the proof you need, so that when you then officially go to market, let's say you've got five reviews, 5 testimonials, 5 results, all of a sudden you've got proof, and you can go ahead and automatically charge an existing price. It's going to be much easier to get people to work with you for free without proof, to build the proof you need, and then charge extremely competitive rates, compared to trying to charge a little amount of money, which people emotionally are going to associate a low cost with cheap, and they're not going to actually work with you as quickly as you think they would, and then trying to slowly raise your prices over time to get to a competitive rate. I would go with the option of free first, get the proof, and then charge more, compared to start cheap and try and keep building up. It's going to just be very difficult to do that, okay? So that's the proof. The last one is the close rate. So this is an important one, okay? So close rate is just a fancy term for saying out of how many people booked a call to speak with you, or how many leads you have, how many actually turned into active clients, right? What is the percentage? And we work this out based on percentages, because the magic number seems to be 40%. Okay, so if you're anything above 40%, that's not telling me that you're a great salesperson. What that's telling me is your prices are too low. So I know it's very difficult to do this, and it is going to be scary at first, but you need to that is just a clear sign that what your offer is to the type of people you're speaking to is so good that they actually would pay more. They would be willing to pay more. So you slowly increase your prices. You just test it on every new call that comes through. you can try it. That, you know, you can either go up by 20%, 40%. You can double it if you want to. The thing is, with service-based businesses, the only way you find out is by testing and by trialing. So you try it and you just keep going up until your close rate drops below 40%, and then it becomes a little bit of a pain when you're getting on with calls, and you know 2 out of 3 calls are going to end up saying no to you. But it's up to you, because sometimes that can actually be more profitable compared to taking on people at a lower price point and just trying to handle more people at a lower price. So you need to do the maths, but the rule of thumb is anything above 40% you need to keep raising your prices. Anything below 40%, it's either a sales issue, you need to work on your sales skills, or potentially your prices are too high and that's becoming a problem. So I hope that makes sense. That's the checklist I would go through when considering raising my prices. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're looking to scale or grow a service-based business, we just talk about that all day on this channel. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Make sure you subscribe.